U.S. Central Command releasing brand new video. Look at your screen. It shows U.S. attacks on Iran's terrorist regime continuing as President Trump is working on the diplomatic front, on that side of the equation now. Always had that in his sights and keeping it there. This morning, the president touted, quote, serious progress in U.S. negotiations with a, quote, new and more reasonable regime in Iran. He also repeated that U.S. forces would target and destroy Iran's energy infrastructure if that country does not reach a deal with the United States soon. So all of that going on simultaneously. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. The joint U.S.-Israeli military operations are taking on a serious toll for Iran. According to President Trump, the U.S. has bombed 13,000 targets so far. So that would be governmental and military targets. Here's the president on negotiations and Operation Epic Fury.
Moving on very nicely. They've destroyed a lot of additional targets today. The Navy's gone, the Air Force has gone, we know that. But we destroyed many, many targets today. It was a big day. And we are negotiating with them directly and indirectly.
Officials say they expect talks to end the Iran conflict to the center of the Strait of Hormuz and Iran's efforts to cut off the crucial waterway. President Trump says Iran will allow 20 ships to pass through Hormuz beginning today as a quote-unquote sign of respect. The president is still weighing military operations to safeguard America and our allies. The Department of War is reportedly preparing for a potential ground operation with thousands of additional troops for that arriving in the region. Here's the president again.
Are you considering still putting boots on the ground, and would you do that without going to Congress?
I just have lots of alternatives. We have tremendous numbers of ships over there. We don't need them all because of, the power. Look, I would say we're just like we're ahead of schedule on the ballroom. In a much bigger way, we're ahead of schedule with Iran. We're weeks ahead of schedule.
One goal of putting troops on the ground could be to totally eliminate Iran's ability to build a nuclear weapon, because they'd be focused on getting to that uranium that we know that Iran has. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting the president is considering an operation to extract 1,000 pounds of Iran's uranium. And former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is on Focus. He's actually sitting right next to me, and he's coming up. Let's start with Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin. Jennifer.
Harris, that would be a very dangerous and labor-intensive operation to get the highly enriched uranium. The Pentagon, however, is reportedly preparing for weeks of ground operations in Iran as more reinforcements arrive in the Middle East. The report from the Washington Post added that these plans are not a full-scale invasion, but include potential raids by special operations forces and conventional troops. About 3,500 sailors and Marines with the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit arrived in the region over the weekend on the USS Tripoli amphibious assault ship and USS New Orleans amphibious transport dock. Another 2,000 Marines with the 11th Expeditionary Unit are en route, but still weeks away. And 1,500 paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne began arriving in the Middle East Sunday. This gives additional options to CENTCOM, but represents still small numbers. Not nearly enough for a sustained ground invasion. Fox News confirmed Iran struck the U.S. Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia on Friday with ballistic missiles and drones, injuring at least 12 U.S. service members. 2 of the Americans are in serious condition, U.S. officials said. At least one KC-135 air refueling plane was hit and reportedly on fire as a result of the strike. But what got people's attention was a valuable U.S. Air Force E-3 Sentry AWACS command and control plane worth about $500 million, one of just a dozen or so in the U.S. inventory. It was also hit in a direct strike on Friday. It is a valuable plane that is essentially a flying command center, giving U.S. forces a picture of the battlefield. The base, which is deep inside Saudi Arabia, points to Iran getting targeting assistance from the Russians. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told Fox News' Matt Finn in a sit-down interview that Ukraine has intelligence showing Russian satellites photographing U.S. military facilities in the Middle East, including the U.S.-UK joint military facility on Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean that Iran targeted last week. On March 25th, the Russians took satellite pictures of the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Zelensky wrote on X 2 days later, a direct strike on U.S. assets parked on a tarmac in Saudi Arabia. Harris.
Jennifer, thank you very much. In Focus Now, Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State and President Trump's first term and a Fox News contributor. Great to see you. First of all, when you hear troops on the ground to go after that uranium, what's your first reaction?
Probably necessary, but an incredibly difficult task. But I'm confident our men and women are up for it, whether it's the capacity to control the airspace, the ability to get in and out. The intelligence, along with our Israeli partners, I'm sure is very good about the whereabouts of this. But make no mistake about it, this will be a difficult mission. It is fraught. Things go wrong when you move people around. Airplanes break. Things happen. So it's not without risk. But you can't eliminate the Iranian nuclear weapons program in the way that President Trump has talked about doing without getting at this enriched uranium. So you'll have all the enriched uranium out. You will have destroyed their capacity to continue to enrich.
I always feel like when you and I sit down, I get so much more information than anybody bet on because you also were the director of the CIA. So let's talk intelligence for a second. I know that the IAEA inspectors have been tossed out of Iran some time ago, but what do we think we know is on the ground by now?
I'm very confident that between us and the Israelis, we have a pretty good sense of what's actually taking place inside of Iran today. You don't see much of it. There's a news blackout, right? So you don't see a great deal of what's taking place. The success of this campaign is blurred by the fact that the Ayatollah or the Ayatollah's replacement or whoever the heck's in charge today doesn't want us to see the devastation that has been wrought by the U.S. military.
Look, from the beginning of this, the president had said not his goal necessarily for a regime change. And my sources at the Pentagon have told me that, yeah, that's definitely the case. Their focus is on the military, you know, the strategy and their directives. So could that come? Do we have the patience for that? Or do we deal with what now is this interim that the president says is much better?
Look, my sense of it is this, is you're going to get a change in the regime. That is, its behavior is going to change. And that's what we're shooting for. It may be the case that we don't ultimately get Thomas Jefferson installed in Iran or his equivalent, right? But we will get a regime that is no longer capable of having these terror proxies around the world. It can no longer threaten the strait and deny commerce moving through. The behavior of the regime will have to change. And that's what President Trump's been driving for. And I think these tactical operations that we talk about, 13,000 targets, strategically have had far more impact than the world has seen.
You know what's remarkable about what you just said? Yeah, we're not trying to push democracy on them. This is not a changing of hearts and minds. This is a completely different type of mission. Your thought on that?
Absolutely. In the end, the nature of the government inside of Iran will be determined by the Iranian people. The work that we do will give them the opportunity to do that. But what we're interested in, right, putting America first and putting our Gulf Arab allies at the front of this, is security for the region so that we'll have an economy that's thriving, a set of open ways, and the Iranian regime won't be able to do what it's done for decades, Harris, which is to threaten all of us.
Well, now they're actually hitting everybody. They're trying to, talking about potentially hitting Americans in different areas.
You bet. Our universities, the American universities in the Gulf Arab states, civilian targets.
I want to get to this. The conflict with Iran is raising more concerns around our nation's cybersecurity, and a group that has U.S. intel believes it has ties to Iran, says it was behind the hacking of the FBI Director Kash Patel's email last week. And it claims on its website that the cyber attack was in retaliation for the FBI's seizure of several internet domains. And in a statement, here's what the group wrote. Quote, the so-called impenetrable systems of the FBI were brought to their knees within hours by our team, end of quote. The FBI said in a statement that the hack didn't scoop up any government information, and the State Department reissued a $10 million reward for information on the group. Secretary.
So I've worried about Iran's cyber program for a long time, a very capable set of tools. I actually have been pleasantly surprised by the fact that the Iranians have not been able to do a whole heck of a lot. Shut down our financial system, turn off the lights in some big city.
Why do you think that is?
We must be doing amazing work. Offensive work to take out their cyber capability, defensive work to protect our systems. I fully credit the United States security apparatus for having prevented Iran from doing more cyber damage than we have seen. And maybe they still have tools that they're waiting to deploy, but clearly much work was done, and we should give great credit to the dog that hasn't barked, right? The cyber attack that has not taken place in the first month of this conflict.
Yeah, the only thing they can manage to do is turn off the internet for the rest of the people. And you heard President Trump commenting on that. That hurts their ability on the ground to then rise up, obviously, because they can't talk to each other. It's a country that's like the size of 2.5, if not 3 Californias.
Yeah, 80 million people, big challenge. more work to be done to give the Iranian people the chance they need to actually go do this. No, when you continue to run Evin prison and torture and conduct rape at the way the Iranian regime has done, it is very difficult for people to rise up. The Basij is still in the streets. The Israelis are working hard on that to take these checkpoints down.
Right.
But it's a big country with a deep infrastructure, a very different problem set than is Venezuela or some of the other smaller places.
All right, real quickly, the Basij is still in the streets.
I understand they're still on the streets, still working. We hope they'll all change their minds and decide they want to be part of the future and not part of the evil past.
As for all of them who have killed so many.
Amen.
Great to see you.
Great to be with you, Harris.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.